Hi, I'm Robert from Addison Appliances. We are an installer of premium appliances for brands such as Quasair, Sirius, Capital Barbecues, and Pitt Cooking. That's what we're here to talk about, how to prepare your cabinetry stone, really comprehend all the steps involved in getting a smooth, easy installation on these products. Okay, first thing to consider is your stone surface. That's what we're talking about today, stone surfaces, man-made or natural stones. For all products that are compatible stone-wise for your surfaces, jump on the Pitt website, we'll list them here as well. Today, we're working with a porcelain and it's been prepared somewhat adequately for a pretty smooth installation. A couple of things that could have been done better, but today we're going to show a couple of examples of sort of what not to do, some things that make things a little bit more difficult, make the product either not able to be installed or difficult to ever remove. And we'll just go over the most easy, most efficient ways to prepare for these, the most comprehensive way of explaining these to your stonemasons, to your cabinet makers, or understanding yourself on how to prepare this sort of product. Okay, so this is not a traditional cooktop here. We've got to consider all of our outlets here, all of our burners that we'll need to prepare the stone surface behind us. The control knobs need to be allowed for. We need to prepare this off-site in the factory. These need to be cut by machine, smooth surfaces. These aren't to be done on site. Another thing to consider when having the appliance on site in the preparation stage is not to leave it lying around to collect dust inside of these sensitive control knobs here. It can cause problems, especially while we would not be preparing the stone or chiseling out stone, burring it out with the product installed. We definitely want to keep this product protected away from dust as much as possible. And that's why it's important to prepare the cabinetry, prepare the stone adequately so that this can then be put in by the installer and not be left out lying around on site prone to damages. So one thing to consider here is the width of the product. In our cabinetry design, they have allowed for enough width on this particular product. From this partition wall to this partition wall, it does span wider than the product. If it did not, and we had partition walls closer in, for example, maybe we'd have twin 600 ovens and a partition wall right through the middle, that would stop us from being able to slide in our product and install it. So always consider the width in your cabinet design. Another thing to consider here is our height. We do have enough height here to slide the product in from here to here. However, I think we will find that it will clash with our drawer and there will need to be modifications. Sometimes a false panel up the top to give enough clearance might be the way to go. As you can see here, we have our gas pipe over on our left-hand side. That's not ideal. Over in the adjacent cupboard on the right-hand side would be the ideal location for our gas pipe. We need the plumber to leave us a 1/2 inch point, preferably with a 1/2 inch gas stop valve within the cupboard to the right-hand side is the ideal installation location for that. Now, as we can see here, they have prepared this area where the benchtop is to have no timber substrate underneath. The substrate is the particle board that gives strength to the stone underneath. In other areas of the kitchen, we have timber substrate underneath of the stone to give it strength, which is fantastic, but not where we're installing the pit. So the pit cooker coming underneath will sandwich directly to the stone. In this area, there can be absolutely no timber. If the timber is left on, it will need to be chipped off by the cabinet maker or the stonemason. Even glue residue will be an issue, so we just cannot put any substrate in that location. Okay, so as for the cutting out of the stone, this is to be done off-site by the stonemason before, not to be done on-site or over the product, not to be rough edges or to be smooth, machined edges. Now, in order to get the locations precise for this, the stonemason will need to measure up. Okay, he's going to need to consider all the locations of the burners and the control knobs. Don't forget the control knobs. So we will be provided with each product a template like so. Now we're dealing with the Elbrus model here. If we're not careful, and you can do the wrong holes here. So we need to consider what we're actually installing, what model, and follow the guide accordingly. Now, as for the Elbrus model, it's every one on here, every hole on here is relevant. But if you have more holes or less holes than what are on the product, you might be in trouble. Just to make it more clear, if this were a traditional cooktop, we would be cutting out of the stone and the substrate timber a large square and the entire product would drop through. The only difference with a pit cooker is We're cutting out a large rectangle, bigger than the unit. I always say at least 10 mil either side, larger than the unit is expected to be, give you some play. Yes, we're cutting that through the substrate, but for the stone, we are only cutting for the burners. So we're not cutting a whole rectangle out. We're not just cutting the circles out. Rectangle through the timber substrate and round holes corresponding with the burners and control knobs on the stone. Okay, so just going over a couple of examples of where these can be done wrong. Some common scenarios. As mentioned, partition wall either too close in, not wide enough, or right through the guts. Okay, so the problem with that is we can't slide our unit in. For example, sometimes we come to a client's house, we've got 2 ovens there, and what the builder will do is drop the pit cooker in and lay the stone over top. While in some cases that can be done, it's really not recommended. If you ever need to service a product, you can't remove it without ripping open cabinetry, cutting stone. You really want to avoid that. You want this product to be able to be removed if it's ever needed to be. If you were to spill liquids within it and need to give it a clean out or something like that, we want to be able to drop it out and remove it out. We don't want to lock it in, sandwiched between cabinetry or appliances and the stone. It's then locked in forever. We want to avoid that.